Introduction. Every great victory begins long before the world ever sees it. It begins quietly, invisibly, in the mind. The difference between those who endure and those who surrender is not luck, intelligence, or opportunity. It is the quality of their mental strength. Life is full of unexpected turns, and no matter how carefully we plan our steps, the road will test us. There will be moments when our dreams seem too far, our energy too low, and our hope almost gone. It is in those moments that the mind either breaks or rises. This audiobook was written to help you rise. To train your mind to never give up is to enter the deepest form of personal transformation. It is not about pretending everything is fine, nor is it about denying pain or failure. It is about learning to control your inner world when the outer world is falling apart. The truth is, every time you feel like quitting, it is not the situation defeating you. It is your interpretation of it. The mind gives up long before the body does. When you feel exhausted, when everything seems hopeless, and when you hear that quiet voice saying, "Stop," that is precisely the moment you must push back and take control of your thoughts. Resilience is not a gift reserved for a few. It is a muscle that can be trained. Every thought, every decision, and every moment of discomfort becomes a weight that strengthens the mind. Just as an athlete builds physical endurance through repetition, your mental endurance grows through consistent challenge. But the secret is not in the challenge itself. It is in your attitude toward it. People who overcome the impossible are not necessarily stronger or smarter. They have simply learned the art of persistence. They have trained their minds to see possibility where others see limitation. This audiobook will take you through that process of transformation. It will show you how to reprogram your thoughts, master your emotions, and develop the kind of focus that cannot be shaken by failure. You will learn to see pain as a teacher, not an enemy. You will understand that fear is not a signal to run, but a compass pointing toward growth. You will learn that the voice of doubt inside your head is not your master, but a muscle that weakens the more you resist it. Every chapter is a lesson in reclaiming your power from the things that once controlled you. The journey to an unbreakable mind is not easy. It requires self-awareness, discipline, and patience. It demands that you confront the parts of yourself you've avoided, the fear of rejection, the pain of failure, the weight of disappointment. But as you face these inner battles, you'll realize that strength isn't built in comfort. Growth is born in struggle. Your mind learns endurance only when it has reason to quit. Each trial you overcome becomes a seed of confidence, and soon, perseverance becomes your second nature. You will begin to understand that success is not a single moment of glory, but a long collection of small victories against doubt. Each time you choose to keep moving, even when you're uncertain, you are teaching your mind that giving up is not an option. And that is the true essence of greatness. To rise one more time than you fall, to stand firm when everything else is shaking, and to believe in light even while standing in darkness. This audiobook is not about positive thinking. It's about powerful thinking. It's about rewiring your mental patterns so that when life hits you, your first instinct is to adapt, not collapse. It's about developing a warrior's mindset, one that doesn't seek an easy path but a meaningful one. Life will always test you, but with the right mindset, you will begin to see every test as an opportunity to grow stronger. As you listen, remember, the battle is never outside of you. It's not in the economy, the environment, or the opinions of others. The real battle is inside, between the part of you that wants to keep fighting and the part that wants to surrender. This audiobook exists to remind you that you are not weak, you are not defeated, and you are not done. You are simply in training. Chapter 1. The mind is a battlefield. Understanding mental endurance. The greatest battles in life are never fought on physical grounds. They are waged in the unseen realm of the mind. Every decision to move forward or retreat, every act of courage or surrender, every victory or defeat first begins as a thought. The mind is both the field of war and the weapon itself. It can empower you to endure storms that would destroy others, or it can convince you to surrender before the fight even begins. The difference lies in how trained your mind is to withstand pressure. When people talk about strength, they often think of muscles, endurance, or stamina. But what separates champions from quitters is not how strong their bodies are. but how disciplined their minds have become. The mind gives up before the body does. You see this in athletes who collapse seconds before the finish line, not because their legs fail, but because their mind told them they couldn't take another step. The body obeys the mind's signal. Once the brain concludes that the pain is unbearable, the body follows. Yet when the mind decides that stopping is not an option, something extraordinary happens. The body finds hidden reserves of strength. This is the essence of mental endurance. Mental endurance is the ability to continue despite discomfort, fear, fatigue, or uncertainty. It is what allows soldiers to keep moving through pain, students to study through exhaustion, and dreamers to keep working after countless rejections. It is not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to be controlled by it. Every time you push through discomfort, your brain learns that struggle is survivable. Each act of endurance rewires your neural pathways, strengthening your capacity for future challenges. Over time, perseverance becomes a reflex rather than a forced effort. The psychology of resilience lies in understanding how thoughts shape outcomes. Your thoughts are not random. They are commands to your mind and body. When you think, "I can't do this," your body shuts down to align with that belief. When you think, "I will find a way," your brain begins searching for solutions. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between truth and imagination. It simply acts on whatever it is repeatedly told. This means every thought you dwell on becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People who constantly tell themselves they are tired, unlucky, or not good enough begin to live in that reality. Not because life decreed it, but because their mind accepted it as truth. Resilience, therefore, begins with thought management. Those who master their thoughts gain control over their emotions, actions, and reactions. They understand that pain, fear, and failure are not signals to quit, but invitations to grow. Resilient minds translate adversity into meaning. They do not deny pain, they redefine it. To them, every hardship is a training ground for strength. When you decide to stop interpreting challenges as threats and start seeing them as opportunities for transformation, your entire mental framework shifts. But to cultivate this level of strength, you must first recognize the enemies within: mental weakness and self-defeating patterns. Mental weakness is not a lack of intelligence or courage. It is the habit of giving in to short-term comfort at the expense of long-term growth. It appears in small moments, when you choose distraction over discipline, excuses over effort, or blame over responsibility. These habits gradually form a pattern of surrender, teaching your mind that quitting is acceptable. Every time you yield to that impulse, you strengthen your inner quitter. Over time, this becomes your default mode. You give up not because you can't, but because you've taught yourself to. Self-defeating patterns are often subtle. They manifest as perfectionism, procrastination, fear of failure, or the need for approval. For example, a person may start a project with passion, but stop halfway because they fear it won't be good enough. Another may avoid challenges altogether because they fear being judged. These patterns create invisible walls around your potential. They make you think you're protecting yourself when, in truth, you're limiting yourself. The first step to breaking them is awareness, recognizing when your mind is sabotaging you in the name of safety. Once you see it, you can change it. Many of these tendencies are not entirely your fault. Society, upbringing, and fear condition us to quit early. From a young age, we are often shielded from discomfort. We are told that pain is bad, that failure is shameful, that mistakes define us. Schools reward easy success, parents overprotect us from disappointment, and media glorifies instant gratification. We are taught to avoid struggle rather than endure it. As a result, when real life demands persistence, many people crumble. They were never taught that resilience is built through resistance. Fear amplifies this conditioning. The fear of failure, rejection, or embarrassment becomes a mental prison that keeps people from pushing forward. Fear tricks the mind into believing that quitting early is safer than trying and failing. Yet the truth is that giving up is not protection. It is slow self-destruction. Every time you quit, you reinforce the belief that you are incapable. Over time, fear becomes your master, and your dreams fade quietly into regret. But when you begin to confront fear head-on, you realize it loses its power the moment you act despite it. Fear cannot survive in the presence of courage. Modern neuroscience gives us a fascinating insight into this process. The brain is not fixed. It is adaptable through a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. Every thought, decision, and repeated behavior rewires your brain structure. When you consistently push through challenges, your brain develops stronger neural connections associated with perseverance. The more you endure, the more your brain learns endurance. This means you can literally train your mind to become tougher, just as you train your body to become stronger. Closely related to this is the science of grit, the sustained passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Psychologist Angela Duckworth's research reveals that grit, more than talent or intelligence, predicts success. Gritty individuals do not rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. They are willing to be uncomfortable for extended periods because they believe in what they are working toward. Willpower, too, functions like a muscle. It gets tired when overused, but it also strengthens with consistent training. Each time you resist the urge to quit, you are exercising your willpower and expanding your mental stamina. Understanding this science is empowering because it means your current limitations are not permanent. You can build resilience deliberately. You can condition your brain to stay focused under pressure, to persist when the odds are against you, and to see failure as part of the process rather than the end of it. The mind that never gives up is not born. It is built. It is forged through countless moments of resistance, through small victories over weakness, and through the quiet determination to rise again after every fall. To master mental endurance, you must accept that struggle is not a punishment. It is preparation. The pain you feel while pushing forward is the proof that you are expanding your limits. Growth always demands discomfort. When you stop running from it, you start evolving through it. This is the core of mental toughness, the understanding that everything you want lies on the other side of persistence. The battlefield is not out there. It is in your head. The enemy is not the obstacle. It is your doubt. Once you win the war within, the world outside can no longer defeat you. Your body will do whatever your mind allows it to do. So when the road gets hard and your spirit feels heavy, remember this simple truth. Your mind will try to protect you by telling you to stop, but your soul knows that you are made to endure. Train your mind to obey your purpose, not your pain, and you will discover that there is nothing you cannot overcome. Chapter 2. Breaking the Quit Habit. Reprogramming your inner voice. Before any great decision, before every act of courage or surrender, a conversation happens inside you. It is silent, invisible, and deeply powerful, the dialogue you have with yourself. This inner voice shapes how you interpret the world, how you face pain, and how far you believe you can go. It can either empower you to rise above adversity or convince you that you're not strong enough to continue. The truth is simple but profound. Your inner dialogue determines your limits. The way you speak to yourself becomes the foundation of what you think is possible. The mind listens carefully to the stories you repeat. If you constantly feed it words of doubt, fear, and limitation, it will shape your behavior to match that belief. If you tell yourself, "I can't, I'm not ready," or "I always fail," your brain begins to build neurological pathways that strengthen those statements as truth. But if you replace those same words with "I can," "I'm learning," or "I'll find a way," your brain begins to create new circuits of confidence and resilience. Every word you speak to yourself is either programming you for power or conditioning you for weakness. Over time, these patterns become habits, mental habits that decide whether you keep pushing or give up when life gets hard. Inside every person, there are two competing voices, the voice of surrender and the voice of strength. The voice of surrender is the whisper that appears when things get tough. It tells you that you've done enough, that it's too hard, that it's better to quit now and save yourself the pain. It's the voice that sounds reasonable, even protective. It tells you that failure will hurt and that safety is more comfortable than risk. But the voice of surrender is not your friend. It's your fear disguised as wisdom. It keeps you small, stuck, and silent. Then there is the voice of strength, the part of you that refuses to accept defeat, that believes in your potential even when the evidence doesn't. This voice doesn't shout. It speaks quietly but firmly. It says, "You can handle this. You've been through worse. One more step." It's the voice that surfaces when your body is tired, your emotions are drained, and your heart still says, "Keep going." The challenge for most people is that they have spent years feeding the voice of surrender and starving the voice of strength. The stronger voice becomes the one you listen to most. To train your mind to never give up, you must consciously strengthen the voice that fights for you, not against you. Breaking the quit habit begins with awareness, noticing when your inner voice turns against you. Every time you catch yourself thinking, "I can't do this," pause. Don't just ignore it, interrupt it. You must treat negative self-talk like an intruder trespassing in your mental home. Stop at mid-sentence and replace it with a statement that reflects your true power. Instead of saying, "This is impossible," try, "This is difficult, but I'll figure it out." Instead of saying, "I always fail," try, "I'm learning what doesn't work so I can succeed." This process might feel unnatural at first because your brain has been conditioned to choose the easiest emotional path, self-doubt. But over time, as you consistently challenge that voice, your brain begins to build new neural pathways that favor resilience instead of retreat. This is how new neural habits are formed. The brain is not static, it's flexible. It rewires itself based on repetition and emotion. When you repeatedly expose it to empowering thoughts, those thoughts become easier to think. When you starve it of defeatist thoughts, those thoughts weaken. Just as muscles grow stronger with exercise, mental habits grow stronger with practice. The more you practice resilience, the more natural it becomes. Affirmations and visualization are powerful tools in this rewiring process. Affirmations are not mere positive statements. They are mental instructions to your subconscious mind. When you affirm, "I am disciplined, I am focused, I am strong," you are not pretending to be those things. You're training your brain to embody them. Over time, the subconscious begins to align your behavior with those commands. Visualization, on the other hand, engages the mind's most powerful faculty, imagination. The brain cannot tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real one. When you visualize success, vividly seeing yourself overcoming obstacles, feeling the emotions of victory, and rehearsing perseverance, your brain records that as a real experience. It begins to believe that endurance is your natural state. Emotional regulation is another cornerstone of breaking the quit habit. Most people don't quit because they lack skill. They quit because they can't manage the emotions that come with struggle, frustration, fear, disappointment, or exhaustion. When those emotions rise, the brain interprets them as danger and urges you to stop. Emotional regulation teaches you to feel discomfort without being controlled by it. It's the practice of breathing through anxiety, observing anger without reacting, and grounding yourself when your thoughts spiral. When you regulate your emotions, you reclaim power from your impulses. You begin to respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. That's how you keep moving forward when everything in you wants to stop. Creating a daily mental gym routine is the practical foundation of inner discipline. Just as you would train your body at a physical gym, you must train your mind every day to become mentally fit. This means setting aside moments to strengthen your focus, gratitude, and mental clarity. Start your morning by speaking affirmations out loud. Close your eyes and visualize yourself handling challenges calmly and confidently. Throughout the day, notice your self-talk. Every time a negative thought arises, replace it with a stronger one. In the evening, reflect on the times you overcame hesitation or stayed consistent when you wanted to quit. These small moments are your daily repetitions, your mental push-ups. This practice transforms the way you handle adversity. Over time, your mind becomes less reactive and more strategic. You stop seeing failure as proof of weakness and start viewing it as part of the growth process. You stop fearing discomfort because you've trained yourself to thrive in it. The mind begins to trust you. It learns that when things get tough, you don't panic, you adapt. This trust between your conscious and subconscious self is what builds unstoppable resilience. One of the most important lessons in mental training is that your thoughts are not facts. They are suggestions. You are the one who decides which ones to accept and which ones to reject. When you internalize this truth, You stop being a victim of your thoughts and start becoming their master. You begin to treat your mind not as an enemy to silence, but as a tool to sharpen. Each day becomes a new opportunity to practice awareness, reframe negative patterns, and strengthen the inner dialogue that sustains you. Reprogramming your inner voice doesn't mean you'll never feel doubt again. It means that when doubt speaks, you'll know which voice to trust. You'll listen to the voice that says, keep going, even when fear tells you to stop. You'll begin to see that the moments you feel like quitting are not signals of weakness. They're tests designed to measure your growth. And with every test, your new voice will grow louder, stronger, and more certain. The mind you feed daily becomes the mind that leads you. If you nourish it with courage, discipline, and faith, it will stand by you through every challenge. But if you feed it fear, excuses, and defeat, it will abandon you at the first sign of hardship. Your inner voice is your most loyal companion or your most dangerous enemy. The choice is yours. So, every morning you wake up, remind yourself that the training continues. The world may not see it, but within you, a war is being fought between surrender and strength. The more you speak to yourself with power, the more your mind learns that quitting is not an option. Soon, you'll realize that success was never about being fearless or perfect. It was about being faithful to your purpose, your growth, and your voice of strength. Once you conquer the battlefield of self-talk, every other battle becomes winnable. Chapter 3. The Power of Pain, Turning Struggles into Strength. Pain is life's most misunderstood teacher. It speaks in a language of discomfort, yet its lessons are written in the ink of growth. Every human being, regardless of background or circumstance, encounters pain, emotional, physical, or spiritual. The difference between those who rise stronger and those who remain broken lies not in the presence of pain, but in the interpretation of it. Pain is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the universe's way of refining character, stripping away illusions, and awakening the deeper layers of strength that comfort could never reach. From the moment we are born, pain becomes a silent instructor. The first cry of an infant is a reaction to discomfort, but that very act signals the beginning of life. Growth and pain have always walked hand in hand. Muscles tear before they grow stronger. Hearts break before they learn compassion. Dreams collapse before they are rebuilt with clarity and wisdom. Pain is the bridge between who you are and who you are meant to become. Yet most people spend their lives avoiding it, numbing it, or resenting it. They fail to realize that the same pain they run from is the very force that could set them free. Pain is the most powerful teacher of resilience because it strips away all illusions. When everything falls apart, there is no space for pretense or ego. Only truth remains. Pain teaches humility. It shows us that strength is not found in pretending to be unshaken, but in the courage to keep moving even when every step hurts. It reveals the depth of our endurance, the capacity of our spirit, and the authenticity of our faith. The mind grows sharper in adversity because survival demands adaptation. When life becomes difficult, the brain searches for new solutions, new paths, and new strength. Without pain, we would never evolve. Every struggle carries within it the seed of transformation. When you reinterpret suffering as a signal for growth rather than a reason to give up, you reclaim control of your narrative. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single shift in mindset turns pain into purpose. Challenges stop being threats and start becoming opportunities for elevation. Every obstacle becomes a mirror reflecting the parts of you that still need strength, patience, or understanding. Pain is not life working against you. It is life working on you. Great achievers throughout history have all shared this truth. That pain, when embraced, becomes the raw material of greatness. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before successfully inventing the electric bulb. When asked how he endured so many failures, he famously said, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." Each failure was a lesson in disguise, guiding him closer to success. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison. Yet instead of letting bitterness consume him, he emerged with compassion and a vision that united a divided nation. His pain gave birth to his wisdom and his leadership. J.K. Rowling, before creating the Harry Potter universe, was a single mother on welfare, rejected by multiple publishers. Her rejection letters could have silenced her forever, but instead, she turned her pain into purpose. She once said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." That is the essence of transformation, the realization that pain is not the end of the story, but the fire that forges your destiny. Even in sports, we see the same principle at play. Michael Jordan, often regarded as one of the greatest athletes of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. He turned that rejection into relentless fuel. He later said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." His failures sharpened his focus. His disappointments built his hunger. Pain, when channeled correctly, becomes the most powerful source of motivation a person can have. The challenge, however, is learning to stay calm and focused during painful seasons. When life becomes heavy, the mind naturally seeks escape through anger, distraction, or despair. But real mastery lies in stillness, in the ability to breathe and think clearly while everything feels uncertain. One practical way to maintain composure in hard times is to anchor yourself in gratitude. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it keeps perspective alive. It reminds you that even in darkness, some light remains. When you consciously identify things to be grateful for, your health, your lessons, your loved ones, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that reduce stress and enhance clarity. Another way to stay centered is through acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means recognizing that this moment, however difficult, is part of your path. When you stop fighting reality, you free up energy to focus on what can be controlled, your response. Meditation, deep breathing, journaling, and prayer are powerful tools to ground the mind. They calm the emotional storm and reconnect you with your inner wisdom. Pain loses its chaos when you stop resisting it and begin listening to it. Resilience grows in these moments of stillness. It grows when you sit with your pain long enough to understand its purpose. Often, the lessons that change your life the most are learned in silence, after the noise of panic has faded. Pain teaches patience, the ability to endure uncertainty without losing faith. It teaches surrender, not to defeat, but to process. When you stay steady through pain, your character becomes unshakable. You realize that pain is temporary, but the strength it builds is eternal. The final transformation happens when you shift from the mindset of, "Why me?" to "Try me." This is the warrior's attitude, not arrogance, but acceptance of destiny. The "why me" mindset is rooted in victimhood. It sees pain as unfair and personal. It drains your energy because it places you in opposition to life itself. The "try me" mindset, however, sees pain as a challenge, a test of endurance and faith. It says, "I am ready to grow through this. I am built for this." That single shift changes everything. Life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you. When you say, "Try me," you no longer fear challenges because you understand that strength is not built in comfort. Every trial becomes training. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every wound becomes wisdom. You begin to see that the people who rise the highest are not those who avoided pain, but those who transformed it into purpose. Pain no longer defines you. It refines you. It shapes you into a version of yourself that could not have existed otherwise. The truth is, you will never completely escape pain, but you can decide what pain means to you. It can be the reason you quit, or the reason you rise. It can be the weight that breaks you, or the pressure that forges you. Life will continue to present difficulties, but once you learn to reinterpret them, you no longer live in fear of them. You learn to embrace discomfort as the price of evolution. You understand that the more you are tested, the more potential you are unlocking. So when the storms come, and they will, stand firm. Remind yourself that this pain is not the end. It is the beginning of your next transformation. Feel it, face it, learn from it. Let it mold you, not destroy you. In time, you will look back and realize that what once felt unbearable became the very reason you grew stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Pain will no longer be your enemy. It will be your mentor. It will have taught you what ease never could. That strength is not born in comfort, but in fire. And once you learn to harness that fire, there will be nothing left in this world that can break you. Chapter 4. Focus, Discipline, and Consistency. The triple armor of the strong mind. There comes a point in every journey where motivation no longer feels enough. The initial excitement fades, the enthusiasm wanes, and the once bright flame of inspiration begins to dim. This is the stage that separates dreamers from doers and wishers from warriors. The truth is, motivation is a spark, powerful but fleeting. It can ignite the fire, but it cannot sustain it. Discipline is the wood that keeps the fire burning through the coldest nights. Consistency is the oxygen that keeps it alive. And focus is the flame's direction, the ability to burn brightly toward one goal without being scattered by distractions. Together, these three form the triple armor of the strong mind. Motivation fades because it is rooted in emotion, and emotions are temporary. It is easy to feel motivated when everything is going right. When the rewards are visible, the results are immediate, and the applause is loud. But when effort meets silence, when progress feels invisible, or when pain outweighs pleasure, motivation disappears. Those who depend solely on it find themselves quitting and restarting in endless cycles. Discipline, however, is built on commitment, not feeling. It says, I will do it whether I feel like it or not. It is the decision to act in alignment with your goals, regardless of mood or circumstance. Discipline does not wait for the right moment. It creates it. True discipline is forged in the small, invisible choices made daily. It is not about heroic bursts of effort, but about quiet consistency, showing up when it's boring, tired, or inconvenient. The strongest minds do not rely on inspiration. They rely on structure. They understand that the brain thrives on routine. Every time you repeat a behavior, you reinforce a neural pathway. Over time, that pathway becomes automatic, turning difficult tasks into natural habits. This is how long-term perseverance is built, through repetition, not randomness. To build habits that anchor perseverance, you must start small but stay consistent. The brain resists drastic change because it associates it with threat, but embraces gradual progress. When you start with manageable actions and repeat them daily, your brain adapts without resistance. This is how champions are made, not through sudden bursts of genius or effort, but through relentless small steps. Greatness is not one massive leap. It is the result of thousands of steady strides taken in silence. These small daily actions are the building blocks of unstoppable momentum. Momentum is a mysterious force. Once you create it, it carries you even when motivation disappears. A writer who writes a single page daily eventually finishes a book. A runner who trains every morning soon finds it harder to skip a day than to run. The secret is not doing everything at once, but doing something every day. Progress compounds. It grows quietly, like a seed beneath the soil, unseen until the day it breaks through into success. Consistency also trains the mind to trust itself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, your brain records it as evidence that you are reliable. This builds internal credibility, a powerful form of confidence that no external praise can replace. When you consistently do what you say you will, even in private, you develop a deep respect for yourself. And that self-respect becomes fuel. Because once your mind believes you are dependable, it will no longer tolerate excuses. Yet, even with discipline and consistency, one must learn the art of focus, the ability to direct mental energy like a laser. In a world overflowing with distractions, focus is a rare and precious skill. Every beep, notification, and endless scroll trains the mind toward fragmentation. The modern brain is overstimulated but undertrained. It jumps from one thing to another, never settling long enough to achieve depth. To train your brain to focus deeply without burnout, you must reclaim control over your attention. Focus is not about working endlessly. It's about working intentionally. It means giving your full awareness to one task at a time, resisting the temptation to multitask. Neuroscience has proven that multitasking is a myth. The brain can only truly focus on one thing at once. Every time you switch tasks, you lose cognitive energy and mental clarity. Deep focus, on the other hand, activates a state known as flow, a mental zone where time fades, distractions vanish, and productivity peaks. This state is achieved when challenge meets skill, and it is only accessible through consistent single tasking. To enter this state more easily, design your environment to minimize distractions. Create spaces that encourage focus, tidy, quiet, and free from digital noise. Set time boundaries where you work with intensity, followed by moments of intentional rest. The human mind was never designed for endless output. It needs cycles of focus and recovery. Just as muscles grow stronger after rest, the brain becomes sharper when given time to recharge. Working without rest leads to burnout, but disciplined rest strengthens resilience. Training your brain to focus also involves mastering the art of saying no. Every yes to a distraction is a no to your purpose. Strong minds understand that energy is finite. It must be guarded and directed wisely. Not every opportunity is worth your attention, and not every demand deserves your response. Focused people are not those who do more. They are those who do what matters most. They measure success not by busyness, but by effectiveness. Accountability amplifies all of this. When you create systems that keep you answerable, to yourself or to others, you multiply your consistency. Accountability can take many forms. A mentor who checks your progress, a journal where you record daily actions, a timer that structures your workflow, or a friend who shares your goals. What matters is not who holds you accountable, but that accountability exists. It keeps your discipline alive when motivation sleeps. It ensures that your goals remain visible and your standards unshakable. Structure, too, plays a vital role in sustaining focus and consistency. The mind thrives on clarity. When you begin your day without a plan, your attention scatters, and your energy leaks into trivial tasks. But when your day has structure, specific times for work, rest, reflection, and learning, your brain relaxes into rhythm. Structure gives freedom. It removes decision fatigue and replaces chaos with flow. When everything has its place, discipline becomes effortless. At its core, focus, discipline, and consistency are not just tools for success. They are forms of self-respect. They reflect how seriously you take your purpose. A mind trained in these three is like steel, sharp, steady, and unyielding. It doesn't depend on mood or circumstance. It acts from principle. It doesn't rush. It repeats. It doesn't collapse under pressure. It adapts and endures. When you combine focus, discipline, and consistency, you become unstoppable. Focus gives you direction. Discipline gives you endurance. Consistency gives you momentum. Together, they form a mental fortress that no setback can penetrate. You stop chasing motivation because you've built a system that doesn't need it. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. You create progress under any condition. The strong mind understands that mastery is not a destination, but a rhythm, a daily dance between effort and patience, action and reflection, intensity and rest. Each day becomes another repetition in a lifelong workout of greatness. And as you stay faithful to that rhythm, something extraordinary happens. What once felt difficult becomes second nature. Focus becomes effortless. Discipline becomes instinctive. And consistency becomes your identity. The mind that can stay focused amid chaos, disciplined amid temptation, and consistent amid fatigue is the mind that conquers anything. That is the triple armor that protects your purpose. Once you wear it, you no longer chase success. You attract it through who you've become. And in that transformation lies the quiet power of those who never give up. Chapter 5. Emotional Alchemy, Turning Negative Energy into Drive. There is a hidden power buried within the emotions we often try hardest to suppress. Anger, fear, doubt, frustration, jealousy. These are not enemies to be destroyed, but raw energies waiting to be transformed. Just as alchemists of old sought to turn base metals into gold, Mental mastery lies in learning to transmute negative emotions into strength, purpose, and action. This process, emotional alchemy, is the art of turning inner turmoil into inner power. Every emotion carries energy. That energy itself is neutral. It becomes destructive or constructive depending on what you do with it. Anger, for instance, can either lead to destruction or discipline. Fear can paralyze you, or it can sharpen your awareness. Doubt can drain your confidence, or it can drive you to prepare more deeply. When you begin to understand that emotions are not commands but messages, you unlock one of life's most profound truths. Your emotions are not meant to control you. They are meant to inform you. The first step in mastering emotional transmutation is awareness. Most people live in emotional reaction rather than emotional reflection. They're swept away by their feelings before they even understand them. The moment something uncomfortable happens, an insult, a failure, a loss, they react impulsively, trying to escape the feeling rather than study it. But every emotion has a root, a reason, and a lesson. Anger often points to violated boundaries. Fear exposes what you value deeply. Doubt reveals where your belief system still needs strengthening. When you learn to pause and listen before reacting, you turn emotion into information, and information into growth. Turning negative energy into drive requires seeing emotion as fuel, not friction. Anger, for example, is energy in motion. It surges through you, demanding release. Most people waste it on blame or revenge, but the disciplined mind redirects it into focused action. Many of history's greatest breakthroughs were born from dissatisfaction, a form of anger at limitation or injustice. When anger is guided by purpose, it becomes motivation. When fear is interpreted wisely, it becomes foresight. When doubt is harnessed constructively, it becomes curiosity and preparation. The key is redirection, not repression. Repression, in fact, is one of the most dangerous things you can do to your emotions. When you suppress what you feel, it doesn't disappear, it festers. Buried emotion turns into stress, anxiety, and even physical illness. Emotional alchemy, on the other hand, is not about denial. It is about transformation. You acknowledge what you feel without judgment, observe it without attachment, and channel it towards something meaningful. This is how emotional energy becomes creative energy. Every artist, athlete, or visionary who has achieved greatness has learned this art, to take what hurts and turn it into fuel for what matters. Emotional control does not mean never feeling deeply. It means never letting feelings dictate your destiny. A controlled mind is not cold. It is composed. It feels the waves of emotion, but remains anchored beneath them. This composure boosts resilience because it allows you to think clearly in moments of chaos. When others panic, the emotionally trained person pauses. When others lash out, they breathe. Emotional control is not suppression. It is strategic awareness. It allows you to process emotion consciously, choose your response, and stay aligned with your values, even under pressure. This ability to replace reaction with response is what separates emotional amateurs from masters. Reaction is impulsive. It's the body's automatic defense against discomfort. Response is intentional. It's the mind's deliberate choice to act wisely. When you react, you're driven by the primitive brain, the amygdala, which thrives on fight or flight impulses. But when you respond, you activate your higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic, empathy, and long-term thinking. This shift from reaction to response is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It allows you to stay powerful even when life tests your patience or provokes your anger. One of the most effective ways to practice this is through emotional awareness exercises. Start by observing your emotional state several times a day. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling it? What triggered it? Labeling your emotions may seem simple, but neuroscience shows that naming emotions reduces their intensity. By giving a feeling language, you give your brain structure. Journaling your emotions can deepen this awareness, not as a place for venting, but as a tool for understanding. Over time, you'll begin to notice patterns, situations that trigger frustration, people who drain your energy, or thoughts that feed fear. Awareness turns chaos into clarity. Another exercise is deliberate breathing. Emotions are felt in the body before they are processed in the mind. Anger raises your heartbeat. Fear tightens your chest. Anxiety shortens your breath. By controlling your breathing, you send a message back to your brain that you are safe. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural calm mechanism. With practice, this becomes a reflex. Every time emotion rises, your breath becomes your anchor. Meditation, too, strengthens emotional endurance. It teaches you to observe thoughts and feelings without being owned by them. You realize that you are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. Even 10 minutes of quiet stillness daily can rewire your brain's response to stress. The more you practice observing your emotions without reacting, the stronger your mental muscles become. There is also great power in movement. Physical exercise is one of the purest forms of emotional transmutation. When you channel frustration into a workout, anxiety into a run, or sadness in a dance, you convert emotional energy into motion. Movement helps release trapped energy from the body and restores mental clarity. It is no coincidence that some of the most disciplined minds maintain physical routines. The body becomes a tool for balancing emotion. To stay emotionally stable when life feels chaotic, you must learn to anchor yourself internally rather than externally. If your peace depends on circumstances, it will always be fragile. True stability comes from within, from a mind that has learned to remain calm in uncertainty. The secret is detachment, not indifference. Detachment means you care deeply, but do not cling desperately. It allows you to give your best effort without tying your worth to the outcome. It means trusting that whatever happens, you will handle it. Emotional stability also grows through perspective. Chaos feels unbearable when you see it as endless, but every storm eventually passes. Reminding yourself that this too shall pass helps restore balance. Gratitude amplifies this effect. Even in crisis, there is always something to be thankful for: a breath, a lesson, a chance to begin again. Gratitude reframes the narrative. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what remains. Perhaps the deepest secret of emotional stability lies in self-compassion. You cannot transform what you hate. You can only heal what you understand. When you make mistakes, when you lose control, when you break down, treat yourself as you would a friend. Harsh self-criticism keeps you trapped in guilt. Compassion sets you free to learn. Emotional mastery does not mean perfection. It means progress, falling down less often, recovering faster, and growing stronger each time. Over time, as you practice awareness, regulation, and redirection, your emotions become allies. Anger becomes your drive to set boundaries and demand more from yourself. Fear becomes your signal to prepare and evolve. Doubt becomes your reminder to deepen your skills. You stop being at war with your emotions and begin using them as tools for transformation. You learn that emotional energy, once understood, can power creativity, leadership, and resilience. Emotional alchemy turns the battlefield of the mind into a forge of strength. The same heat that once burned you begins to purify you. You learn to walk through fire without losing your form. Life still throws challenges your way, but instead of being consumed by them, you absorb their energy and grow from it. Your emotions no longer dictate your direction. They drive your evolution. When you reach this level of mastery, peace becomes your default state, not because life is easy, but because your mind is unshakable. You can stand in the middle of chaos and remain calm, knowing that nothing outside you has power over what's inside you. You become emotionally untouchable, not numb, but free. And that freedom is the highest form of strength a human mind can achieve. Chapter 6. The Mindset of Growth, Building Thought Patterns that Empower Change. The human mind is like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant in it will eventually take root and grow. Some people plant seeds of limitation, fear, and doubt, and their inner world becomes a garden of hesitation and regret. Others plant seeds of curiosity, courage, and persistence, and they reap confidence, progress, and purpose. The difference lies not in intelligence, talent, or background, but in mindset. the internal belief system that shapes how you interpret challenges, setbacks, and success itself. The concept of a growth mindset is simple yet profoundly transformative. It is the belief that your abilities, intelligence, and talents can be developed through effort, learning, and perseverance. In contrast, a fixed mindset is the belief that these qualities are static, that you're either gifted or not, intelligent or not, capable or not. This difference in thinking changes everything about how you live, how you work, and how you respond to failure. In the real world, the fixed mindset is subtle and pervasive. It hides behind statements like, "I'm just not good at that," or "that's not my thing," or "some people are born successful." People with this mindset fear mistakes because they see failure as proof of inadequacy. They avoid challenges that might expose their weaknesses, seeking instead the comfort of what they already know. They crave validation rather than growth, and in doing so, they imprison themselves within their current limits. The growth mindset, however, operates from an entirely different energy. It sees failure not as an ending, but as feedback. It views effort as the pathway to mastery. A person with this mindset believes that intelligence and talent are merely the starting points, that through persistence, self-reflection, and learning, they can become more capable with time. This perspective creates resilience. When something goes wrong, instead of saying, "I can't," the growth-minded person says, "I can't yet." That single word, "yet," opens infinite doors of possibility. The beauty of the growth mindset is that it transforms failure into fuel. Every time you stumble, you are presented with a choice: to see failure as defeat or as data. The most successful people in the world understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. They know that mistakes are not personal insults from life, but invitations to improve. The mindset shift is simple but radical. You stop asking, "Why did I fail?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is the voice of growth mindset. Every setback refined his process. Every disappointment sharpened his focus. Likewise, every entrepreneur, artist, or visionary who has ever achieved greatness has walked the long road of failure. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job. Albert Einstein didn't speak fluently until the age of 9 and was considered slow by his teachers. But none of these individuals accepted limitation as final truth. They turned rejection into redirection and failure into foundation. Failure, when understood correctly, becomes a mirror that reveals your potential. It shows you where your methods are weak and where your resilience must grow. It humbles you enough to learn, but strengthens you enough to try again. Each failure, therefore, is a step upward, not backward. The growth mindset thrives on this process. It welcomes the discomfort of learning, the awkwardness of being a beginner, and the humility of imperfection. To build this mindset, you must create daily mental routines that reinforce progress and confidence. Growth does not happen automatically. It must be cultivated intentionally. Begin each day with thoughts that empower possibility rather than fear. Speak to yourself in the language of evolution. Phrases like, "I'm improving," "I'm learning something new today," or "every challenge is shaping me." These affirmations are not empty words. They are neural instructions. The brain responds to repeated thoughts as if they were commands. Over time, they rewire your subconscious, programming it for perseverance. Reflection is another essential daily practice. Take time each evening to review your day, not through the lens of judgment, but curiosity. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What challenged me? What could I do better tomorrow? This simple act of reflection transforms ordinary experiences into lessons. It helps you see progress even when it feels invisible. Growth, after all, is not measured in leaps, but in layers, each day adding another thread to the tapestry of transformation. The power of curiosity, humility, and self-improvement cannot be overstated. Curiosity keeps the mind alive. It invites you to explore, question, and discover without fear of being wrong. When you are curious, failure becomes exciting, an opportunity to learn something new rather than proof that you aren't good enough. Curiosity is the antidote to stagnation. It transforms the unknown from something to fear into something to explore. Humility grounds curiosity. It allows you to accept that you don't know everything and that others may hold pieces of wisdom you don't. A humble mind learns faster because it listens deeply. It is not threatened by correction or intimidated by success. It recognizes that mastery is not about being superior to others, but about being better than you were yesterday. Humility also protects you from the arrogance that often destroys growth. The moment you think you've arrived, you stop moving forward. But when you remain humble, you remain open, and openness is the soul of progress. Self-improvement, meanwhile, is not an event but a lifestyle. It is the daily act of feeding your mind with better ideas, your body with better habits, and your spirit with better beliefs. Reading, reflecting, exercising, meditating, journaling. These are not luxuries for the few, but necessities for anyone who desires to evolve. Growth does not come through one grand breakthrough, but through the consistent nurturing of your potential. Every book read, every lesson learned, every mistake analyzed becomes part of the architecture of your new self. Consistency in thought renewal is what cements unstoppable growth. Just as the body grows stronger with daily exercise, the mind grows sharper with daily mental renewal. If you feed it negativity and fear, it weakens. But if you feed it vision, gratitude, and courage, it expands. The challenge is that most people renew their bodies every day through food, hygiene, and rest, but neglect to renew their minds. They start each day with yesterday's fears, yesterday's failures, and yesterday's limitations. True transformation begins when you make a habit of mental cleansing. Each morning, you choose to release old narratives and replace them with empowering beliefs. Each night, you review and reset. Over time, this practice transforms your inner world entirely. A growth mindset does not guarantee that life will be easy. In fact, it guarantees that you will face challenges, but with a different spirit. You will stop expecting perfection and start celebrating progress. You will no longer be discouraged by slow growth because you will understand that all meaningful change is gradual. You will begin to trust the process rather than chase quick results. The consistency of small improvements over time creates the unstoppable momentum that changes destinies. There will still be moments of doubt, moments when you feel like giving up, when progress feels invisible and the effort feels endless. But the growth mindset whispers in those moments, keep going. This is part of becoming. It reminds you that the person you are becoming is being forged in these very struggles. Every setback is carving resilience into your spirit. Every difficulty is strengthening your mental endurance. Every effort is moving you closer, even when you can't see it. The beauty of this mindset is that it does not depend on perfect conditions. Whether in failure or success, in comfort or pain, it thrives. It transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers by changing how they think about effort, failure, and time. Once you adopt it, life stops being a competition and becomes a journey of continuous expansion. The growth mindset is not about what you achieve, but who you become in the process of trying. It is about waking up each day determined to be a little wiser, stronger, and more open than the day before. It's about trusting that growth may be slow, but it is certain if you stay consistent. Over time, the person who once doubted, hesitated, and feared will look back and realize that every small act of persistence built a new identity, one defined not by limitation, but by evolution. That is the essence of true growth. A mind that never stops learning, a spirit that never stops striving, and a soul that never stops believing that every challenge is a chance to become more. Chapter 7. Thought to Reality. Becoming the person who never gives up. Every human being possesses a power so vast that few ever fully realize it. The ability to shape reality with thought. The life you live today is, in many ways, a reflection of the thoughts you have repeatedly entertained, the emotions you have consistently nurtured, and the actions you have persistently taken. You are both the sculptor and the sculpture, the architect and the building. Every dream begins as an invisible thought, and every achievement begins as an internal decision to refuse surrender. Becoming the person who never gives up means learning to consciously design your life with the same precision, clarity, and purpose that a builder brings to blueprints before raising a magnificent structure. To consciously design your life, you must live with intention. Intention is more than desire. It is direction. It is the deliberate choice to decide who you want to become and what kind of life you wish to create, and then to align your thoughts and actions toward that vision every single day. Most people live by default, reacting to circumstances rather than creating them. They drift wherever the currents of fear, opinion, or convenience take them. But those who live intentionally anchor their lives in clarity. They wake up each morning with purpose and move through each day as active participants in their destiny. They understand that nothing changes until thought changes. The mind is an extraordinary creative instrument. Every image you dwell upon, every belief you feed, and every emotion you reinforce becomes a subtle blueprint for your reality. Thoughts produce emotions. Emotions influence behavior, and behavior shapes results. To change your outer world, you must first master your inner one. This is why the combination of the law of attraction and the law of action is so powerful. The law of attraction teaches that that your thoughts and emotions draw to you experiences that match their frequency. But attraction without action is fantasy. The law of action is what transforms energy into outcome. When both work together, thought becomes movement, and movement becomes manifestation. The person who never gives up does not merely visualize success. They act in alignment with it. They don't wait for opportunities to appear magically. They create them through preparation, discipline, and persistence. Visualization sets the direction, while consistent action fuels the journey. The two laws together reveal a universal truth. You don't get what you merely wish for. You get what you consistently work toward while believing it's possible. You magnetize the results of your thoughts through the energy of your effort. Living intentionally means aligning thought, emotion, and behavior. When these three are in harmony, your life gains momentum. Thought gives vision. Emotion gives energy. Behavior gives form. If you think of yourself as strong but constantly act weak, the conflict between your thoughts and behavior neutralizes your progress. Likewise, if you take action but harbor self-doubt, your energy becomes fragmented. The secret is integration, to think with clarity, feel with conviction, and act with consistency. When your inner world is unified, your outer world begins to mirror that balance. This alignment also requires self-awareness. You must become the observer of your mind, noticing how your thoughts influence your moods and how your moods influence your actions. Whenever you catch yourself thinking in ways that contradict your purpose, I can't, it's too late, I'm not enough, you must pause and redirect. This is mental self-leadership. You learn to speak life into your dreams, to hold your thoughts accountable to your intentions. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and your inner dialogue evolves from fear to faith, from doubt to determination. Building an identity rooted in resilience and purpose is the next level of this transformation. You cannot sustain success with the mindset of someone who doubts their worth. You must become the kind of person whose character naturally attracts perseverance. This begins with identity, seeing yourself not as someone trying to become strong, but as someone who already is. The brain follows identity. When you tell yourself, I am disciplined, you behave differently than when you say, I'm trying to be disciplined. Identity drives behavior because the mind seeks consistency between belief and action. The person who sees themselves as unstoppable will endure far longer than the person who merely hopes to be. Resilience is not just the ability to recover. It is the ability to renew. It is the quiet strength that whispers, this is not the end, even when everything seems broken. A resilient identity is built through the repeated act of rising. Every fall becomes proof that you are unbreakable. Purpose strengthens this resilience. When you have something greater than yourself to live for, a mission, a calling, a cause, giving up ceases to be an option. Purpose transforms pain into meaning and setbacks into fuel. It reminds you that your journey is not about perfection, but about progress. To become the architect of your destiny, you must cultivate disciplined thinking. The undisciplined mind drifts, reacts, and doubts. It chases instant gratification and surrenders at the first sign of difficulty. But the disciplined mind is focused, strategic, and steady. It has learned the art of choosing thoughts the way a sculptor chooses tools, carefully, deliberately, and with purpose. You cannot control every event in your life, but you can control how you interpret and respond to them. That control is your creative power. Disciplined thinking means training your mind to dwell on solutions rather than problems, to look for opportunities instead of obstacles, to see lessons and losses. It requires consistency, returning to your goals daily, reflecting on your progress, and refining your strategy when needed. Every great transformation begins in the realm of thought. Once your thinking becomes organized, your life follows suit. Chaos in the mind breeds chaos in reality. Clarity in the mind breeds clarity in results. Visualization is one of the most potent tools of disciplined thought. When you imagine vividly and repeatedly, your subconscious begins to treat that image as a reality to pursue. This is not wishful thinking. It is mental rehearsal. Athletes visualize victory before they compete. Leaders visualize success before they act. Artists visualize beauty before they create. What the mind rehearses, the body and spirit eventually perform. Visualization prepares your neural circuits to recognize and seize opportunities aligned with your goals. But without accompanying action, those images remain unrealized potential. The person who never gives up uses visualization as motivation, a constant reminder of where they are headed, even when the path is difficult. Another aspect of disciplined thinking is emotional regulation, the ability to remain calm under pressure, to stay centered when life becomes chaotic, is what separates those who crumble from those who create. When your emotions overwhelm your logic, your thoughts lose direction. But when your thoughts guide your emotions, your energy becomes focused. This is not about suppressing feelings. It is about steering them. Emotional mastery allows you to redirect frustration into focus, fear into alertness, and doubt into drive. A calm mind sees solutions that a chaotic one cannot. The person who never gives up understands that destiny is not discovered. It is designed. Every thought is a brick, every decision a beam, every action a wall in the structure of your future. You build your life piece by piece, thought by thought, with intention and awareness. You are not a victim of circumstance, but a co-creator of your experience. Even when life presents obstacles beyond your control, your response remains your power. The architect never abandons the blueprint when the weather changes. They adapt, reinforce, and continue building. So must you. The bridge between thought and reality is persistence. Thoughts alone cannot change the world, but they can change the thinker, and a changed thinker can change everything. When your thinking becomes disciplined, your emotions become stable, and your actions become consistent, life begins to bend toward your will. You become a force of creation, not reaction. You stop living passively and begin shaping each moment deliberately. Becoming the person who never gives up is not about denying pain or difficulty. It's about transcending them. It's about developing the inner fortitude to keep showing up, keep believing, and keep creating even when results are not yet visible. It is about trusting the process of becoming, knowing that every setback refines you, every challenge strengthens you, and every moment of persistence pushes you closer to the life you have imagined. When thought and action merge, when belief and effort align, something extraordinary happens. Life responds. Doors open. Strength returns. Miracles unfold. This is not coincidence. It is the echo of intentional living. The person who never gives up does not wait for destiny. They build it, one focused thought and one disciplined action at a time. You are the architect of your destiny, the writer of your story, and the maker of your meaning. You can shape the invisible into the visible, the imagined into the real. Every thought you think is a seed. Every action you take is the water that nourishes it. Guard your thoughts, strengthen your discipline, and let your persistence be your art. Because once you train your mind to never give up, the universe has no choice but to make way for the power of your will.